Okay.
So, Yas, tell me a little bit about when did you first decide to quit your full-time job and go to world's biggest garage sale full-time?
That's a really good question. It's quite an interesting story, actually. For a few years, I thought, imagine if I could do this full-time, and it was always a pipe dream, but we never raised enough money at our events to pay staff, let alone pay myself a salary. So we always dismissed it. But it was when I travelled with my family. I was in America for a work conference while I was still employed.
Yeah.
And I had to be in Florida. And I managed to let my boss know that I really wanted to volunteer at this American event, which is this big yard sale, similar to us. And I had this passion to learn from them. And they had been doing this yard sale for 50 plus years. And this community was just so immensely awesome. Lee and I and the girls, Layla and Libby, volunteered our time for 12 hours a day for 11 days.
Oh my gosh, are you serious?
Yeah, it was like a job, but it was perfect. And so what we did was we came away from that going, wow, look at the potential of a yard sale or garage sale. We knew that our events were epic, but after seeing their event where they raised almost $600,000 in 6 hours,
my gosh.
We thought, okay, this is a thing. We're not just raising money, which is fantastic, but we are actually having this enormous impact on the economy, on the circular economy. So when we got back from America, I met with one of my mentors, and literally it was 3 days after getting back from America, and he said, Yas, if you can afford to feed your family for the next 12 months, you need to quit your job, go all in, and have no plan B.
Wow.
And we were at lunch, Lee and I were at lunch with my friend.
Take the leap.
And he is like this, it was Mark Sowerby, the entrepreneur, Queensland's chief entrepreneur at the time. So Steve Baxter's in that role now. And so Mark was, giving us some good advice as a friend and mentor. And Lee and I just looked at each other and we said, could we do it? I said, Mark, we send our kids to private school. And he said, all the more better, Yas. That's going to force you to really make this work. You're going to be able to, you've been in business 4 years. You just haven't realised you've been in business for 4 years. If you're serious about making the impact that you want to make, either quit your job and go all in or give it to someone who can do it because you've created something great.
When was this, sorry?
This was July last year, so a year ago. In fact, I think it was August.
Oh my gosh, did you just passed your anniversary?
I know,
almost.
1 year anniversary. And so Lee and I looked at each other and we just said, okay, yeah, all right, let's do it. And literally I had to go to a conference a few days later for the annual celebration of the company. I'd just returned from being on the road for 18 months working full-time and fully flexibly for the company, so in the world's best job.
Yeah.
And I went to the CEO and the general manager, and it was lots of ugly crying, and I quit my job.
Oh.
And I said, this is what I need to do. This makes no sense financially. I have no income.
Yeah.
I don't know how I'm going to make money, but I know that we want to make a difference, and I know we can make money, and we're going to change the world. So
that's so incredible.
What about you? I want to hear your story because I think it's probably similar.
I can relate to that so much. Yeah, I mean, not so much the trip to the States and volunteering my time for 12 hours, but yeah, how did this start out? This started out in 2016 for me. At the time I was working for a job with SEQ Water, and I'll be honest, I was a little bit bored in my day job. It was a non-technical role for me. It was in regulatory, and I felt like I was missing the modeling because I'm a modeler, I'm a maths nerd. I love the engineering, love the modeling. And so in my spare time at home, because it was a kind of government job, I was getting home at 5, I had my weekends. I was like, I'm gonna teach myself how to build an app because it's always something I've been interested in. So I just knuckled down, did all these courses on Udacity and some of the online materials, and kind of started just churning away on Android and kind of started prototyping some things. And then I was thinking, this idea just came to me one day. I was like, what app will I build? Now, I've built my Hello World app now, what's next? And because my background is in water resources, engineering and flooding, it kind of came to me. I was like, oh my gosh, we need the Google Maps for flooding. We need a flood app. I'm going to build a flood app. And so then my partner Ryan kind of came and joined me on this journey. We're such nerds that on the weekend he saw me kind of coding away, and he has much, like, his background was kind of more in programming than mine. Like, he had done a lot of Python, MATLAB, all these kind of things, and so he started picking it up too, picked it up way quicker than me, and kind of helped me. And we were doing these courses together, like, you know, like sitting in bed on a Saturday night watching like a Udacity course on like how to use like Google Maps APIs. So nerdy, I'm getting embarrassed. But built this app in like October 2016, and it was a side hustle for so long, so over a year for us, just as a hobby and a passion, because we were so passionate about it. But then I went to this conference. It was the International Water Association, and met some people from local government there, some people from Brisbane City Council too, and I told them about what I was doing as this hobby, you know, like this thing that I developed, and they're like, oh, are you offering this? Like, are you going to start a business? Like, what's your plan? And that was the first time I'd ever thought about it. I was like, a plan? It's like, I have no plan. Like, I just am a technical background. I have no idea how to start a business. So then I kind of started researching all of that stuff, and, you know, like going down this rabbit hole of like patents and like funding. And I was like, where to even start? And anyway, then someone sort of alerted me to some innovation programs through council and government, and I sort of like got started, and we ended up submitting an innovation proposal to the Brisbane City Council. And at the time, this was probably would have been like May 2017 by this time. It got knocked back, but they gave us some really good feedback, and they said, hey, like we wouldn't kind of pay to have this built, but go and, you know, build this and come back to us, as, you know, because everything's moving towards software as a service, and like you're onto something here. So it sort of spurred us on. We're still, you know, part-time and doing it as a hobby, but we then thought, okay, well, we need some capital to build this, because it is going to take some effort. And we just realized, you know, we were only scratching the surface. Like, we'd built a prototype, but it wasn't commercially ready. So that's when we started researching about, you know, like accelerators were a really good way to get kind of early on funding, and a lot of support in teaching us how on earth to start a business. So we applied for the H2 accelerator in Sydney, and this was I think it was about August, September. We put in the applications and sort of waited. By November, we were hearing back that we'd been shortlisted, and we were just like ecstatically happy. We were like, no, us, like, we cannot believe this, and sort of went through these interviews. And it was in November, like, I got the call. I remember I was in the office at the time. So I was in Jacobs. I was in this pretty, what I thought was really high paying job at the time, like got paid really well. Wasn't like super in love with my day job, like loved the team, but just knew there was something bigger out there. Anyway, I get this call, and I like sneakily ducked away into a meeting room to take the call. And it's like Aurora from H2 Ventures. She said to me, she's like, oh, Juliette, I'm just calling about the H2 accelerator. And I was like, yeah, thanks so much for calling. Like, we're really excited. We just want to know the outcome, because we're planning and stuff. And she's like, yeah, well, I wanted to really thank you for applying. We had so many great applicants this time around. And I thought in my head, I was like, oh, we haven't got in. Typical rejection call. And I was like, okay, that's cool. But that's so lovely that she's calling me to tell me that, you know, I didn't get in. And then she says, yeah, we had so many successful applicants, but I wanted to know that we'd love to have you come and join the accelerator. And I was like, what? I started crying on the phone. Like, people were walking past, because it was like a fishbowl meeting room, being like, oh, is she okay? But I was like, oh my God, are you serious? It means so much to me. I couldn't believe it. So I emailed Ryan straight away, and I was like, we've got in. And then it was sort of like a month of madness, deciding like, are we going to do this? Like, are we going to pack up and go to Sydney? And like, we've got this little bit of funding, but it's a drop compared to like what we're earning in our full-time jobs. And we were just like, yep, like we have to take the leap. It was just like, just so instant. And so I remember the day I told my bosses that I was leaving, and they were like, oh, like, are you gonna, how are you gonna, you're quitting your job? Like, are you gonna make money from this? Like, and I was like, well, no, but like, it's a journey, and it's what I want to do. And so I told everyone, and they were actually really excited. Like, I was shocked at the support then I got when I actually kind of told people what I decided. They were like, wow, that sounds so exciting. Like, they were really interested to know more about this crazy, like, mysterious startup land. And had a going away party with some drinks, and then we kind of packed up our bags and moved to Sydney, and like took took
And
the
that's
leap
it.
and that was it.
That's so huge.
Oh,
Like
it's
not
terrifying.
just quitting your jobs, but moving for an accelerator, having never ever started a business before.
Yeah.
That's really impressive
Yes.
and very brave.
Yeah, and to Sydney where it was like so expensive.
So expensive.
We lived in a share house with about 6 to 8 other people on one bathroom, and we were paying for our one room in this like house of like cockroaches. It was like really old. $380 a week.
Oh my gosh.
And that didn't even include a car parking space, so we had to rent a separate
Oh my gosh.
car park. It was this just
Wow.
crazy entrepreneurial adventure. I felt like I was in uni again.
Yeah, I was going to say a bit like uni, but that's all part of startup land, isn't it? And I always think, if you sit and analyze, what we were earning and how, like, I was really great at my job, and I'm sure you were great at your job too. And it was almost like probably doing your job with your eyes closed every day. But the startup land is really exciting, and what I love about it is you don't actually know what's going to happen tomorrow. It's a bit like gambling,
so
isn't it? Like,
it's so agile, and you can the emotional roller coasters. Like
Yeah.
I remember talking to you yesterday, and you were feeling like really overwhelmed. It was a big day, lots of one-on-ones. You were like, "How are we going to make this happen?" There's so many, partnerships to get. Like I don't know how we're going to do this. And then look at you today. Like things can change
in a split
day.
second. I know. And it's just the emotion. I feel like being in a startup, let me reframe that. In a corporate, you walk into your corporate job and you're usually wearing your corporate suit and you've got your hair done nice and you put on this mask and you walk through the door and you're like, I'm earning great money. I'm at the top of the ladder in my career. I am totally owning it. And then you come into startup land, you barely do your hair some days, but you also have no idea when you're going to earn your next dollar. You are earning less money, if any, than you've ever earned in your entire life. You're totally back at, I've just graduated from school and I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. But the excitement and the opportunity is so much more. And I feel like there's so much more emotion and rawness within what we're doing now.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Like for me, like in my old jobs, unfortunately, like it was still like this big, like, okay, I'm never a morning person, but it was really hard to get up and drag myself in. And I was going there because I was getting paid and I was getting paid well. And I loved the team. I was going for the people. But now, like, yes, I'm not earning anywhere near the money. Like I have like a student ration that involves like noodles and cheap soups. And like, we got to cut our budget, but the thing is, like, I'm so in love with what we're doing, like it's just the passion for me.
Makes
and
sense.
It doesn't feel like work, in summary. Like I get up to do what I love, not to go and work as such.
And on that note, we probably could wrap it up with that famous quote that if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
So true. It's so
I think
true.
that's where we are right now.